Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. And if it's your first time clicking on my video, thank you so much for tuning in and checking out what I have to say. This channel is called Vondet Views. And I do this, I can talk about many different things, but usually my go-to is talking about movies, and that is because movies is one of my favorite things. And so, for this year, 2025, I have something very special planned for this channel and for all of you guys, because 2025 is also my 25th birthday year. So, with that being said, for this year, for these next 5 months, since I'm born in May, I will be doing a top 25 video. In January, we're going to do horror movies. In February, comedies. In March, action, sci-fi. In April, dramas. And finally, to wrap it all up, in the month of May, my birth month, I'm going to give you guys my top 25 movies of all time. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I have my list right here for horror, and without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so as you could expect with someone like me who loves watching movies, as a channel dedicated to that, I watch a lot of different films, so I have more than a few favorites. Coming up with a 25 list was kind of hard for me. I actually had a list of about like 300 films in all, and then I wrote down the genres. I used a highlighter of different colors, and I got it down. For horror, I got down to 30, so I'm going to start with the honorable mentions and then give you my top 25. So, with these honorable mentions, we have Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. Just a fun little zombie movie, and if you know me, you know zombie horror is my favorite horror. We have Friday the 13th Part 4, The Final Chapter, which wasn't really the final chapter, but that's what they called it. We have Terrifier 3, the brand new Terrifier, and I think this one could reach my top 25 one day, but it's very fresh and very new for me, so not quite yet. Another one that's very fresh and very new is from a couple years ago called Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. And this one also could be my top 25 with a couple more rewatches. I thought it was a lot of fun. If you haven't seen this one, go check it out. And finally, for my honorable mentions, coming from one of my favorite movie series in the horror genre, Evil Dead. We have the Evil Dead 2013 remake. I thought that was awesome. I thought it'd be missing Ash, but it was actually a really cool story on its own. So, getting into it, we have the list. We're going to set it down right here so I can look at it, and just casually, I'm going to give you guys my top 25 horror movies for my 25th birthday. And at 25, I have Halloween 4. Now, you guys may be surprised and shocked to see that this is the only Halloween movie on this list. I am not the biggest fan of the Halloween franchise. I enjoy the movies. I watch them all. I watch the first 2 every year. But for me, Halloween 4 is the most fun and the one I get the most entertainment out of. I love that little twist at the end with the young girl kind of like becoming the new Michael. Sadly, never went anywhere with that, but it's always a fun time for me. Like I said, you know, you're going to see, this is my personal list. These are movies that mean a lot to me growing up and in my life, things that have had a huge impact on me, so obviously it's going to be very different from your list. So keep that in mind while watching, and if you can, leave your top 5, top 10, top 25 in the comments below, and we can talk about that. But for now, this is my list. So then, at 24, Terrifier 2. And in my opinion, this is the first great Terrifier movie. I was following Art the Clown and this whole journey of this character long before Terrifier 2, but this is the first great one in the franchise that really made the character stand out. And I just think this movie is both gory and scary, but also a fun, entertaining time with an excellent final girl that everyone should check out. At 23, we have Sleepaway Camp. Now, this may seem like just another generic slasher when you're first watching it, but stick around to the end because it is one of the most shocking endings of all time, and it will leave your jaw on the floor. At 22, we have It, but not the It from recent years. I actually have the 1990 miniseries slash movie It in my top 25. That is the one I grew up with. That is my favorite, and I love Tim Curry as Pennywise. At number 21, we have The Burning. This is another slasher, but it's anything from generic. It is one of the best slashers ever made. It is top tier, the kills are great, the characters are great, and it doesn't feel cheesy or over the top like a lot of these 80s movies do. At 20, we have the original Nightmare on Elm Street. This is one of the greatest horror movies ever made. It is so perfectly shot and put together, and I really think that this is where the franchise peaked, and sadly for me, it never reached this level again. At 19, we have Dawn of the Dead. This is the original from 1978 by George A. Romero. I do like that Dawn of the Dead remake. However, I just think Romero's movies are the tip of the top when it comes to zombie genre. At 18, another zombie movie. You're going to see quite a bit of these on my list. We have Return of the Living Dead. This was a sort of spoof sequel to Night of the Living Dead, kind of like how Dawn of the Dead was the actual sequel. And I just think it's actually more fun than Dawn of the Dead. It doesn't have as cool of a story or as much like social impact as Dawn of the Dead does, with the whole shopping center mall and our take on like Americans and their obsession with consumerism. But it is more fun, it is more vibrant, it is more colorful, and the zombies are really interesting in this film. At 17, we have a new horror movie from a brand new top of the line director, Get Out. This movie was awesome on first watch, and on rewatch I think I liked it even more. And when a movie can get better each time you watch it, you know that it's a great film. At 16, we have probably the newest movie on this list, and that is Knock at the Cabin. This is a brand new movie from 2 years ago now by M. Night Shyamalan. I know a lot of you think that he fell off and he's not a great director anymore. I have to disagree with that. I think this is one of the best movies of recent history, and I go back to it every few months now. At 15, we have one from my childhood, definitely, and that is Gremlins 2. Yeah, the second one. I know a lot of you think it's not as good, but it's still a classic horror film, a classic horror comedy, and in my opinion, it is probably the more fun of the two Gremlin movies. At 14, we have The Host. This is a Korean film by the director Bong Joon-ho, who also made the movie Parasite. And in my opinion, this is his most entertaining film to date. I have seen quite a few of his movies, including Parasite, and still, The Host is my favorite one. I don't know if it's because I love that like monster movie, Godzilla subgenre, or what, but The Host is an amazing film. And at 13, I know I said the second one is more fun, but that doesn't mean it's better, because we have the original Gremlins. This is a great movie for any time of the year. It's great for Halloween, it's great for Christmas, it's great for the summer. You can watch this movie at any time and have a blast with it. At 12, we have Night of the Creeps, and I actually just watched this movie for the first time and only time at a movie horror festival I went to. It was the midnight movie premiere for the after party for the festival that they had, and I absolutely loved it. The crowd loved it. Everybody was like cheering and saying the lines out loud. Everybody knew all these different aspects of the movie. I don't know if that lent to me loving it more, but the fact that after just one watch it's already this high on my list truly shows how much I enjoyed watching this movie. At 11, we have a very under the radar movie that I don't see anybody ever talking about, and that is Hide and Seek with Robert De Niro. This movie came out in the early 2000s, and it's got a real creepy twist ending that I don't want to spoil, but if you've seen it, you know what I mean. I recommend everyone going to check this one out, especially since I feel like it's one many of you have not seen. Here we are cracking into my top 10 with one of my favorite horror franchises of all time, and we have the original Evil Dead by Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi made this movie with a bunch of college and high school buddies with like no budget in the middle of the woods, and it turned out to be one of the coolest, most entertaining films of all time. And it's the introduction of my favorite horror character of all time, who I've actually met in person, Ash. Bruce Campbell absolutely kills this role, and I really hope that we get to see him in some future Evil Dead films. Please, Bruce, come back. We're begging you. At number 9, we have The Strangers. This is a horror movie from 2008 that's kind of like a home invasion and slasher movie mixed into one, and it is a really cool, freaky story. Ever since I was little, I've loved this one, and it's always been able to scare me. I think it's scary because it feels so real, like something that could actually happen. There was a remake to this movie that came out a couple months ago, and sadly it was just not good at all. So if you're gonna watch this franchise, I recommend watching the original. At number 8, we have a movie from the brand new Ti West trilogy, and we have X. This was the first movie in the franchise, the middle one chronologically, and it's like the slasher movie of the franchise. Each one kind of has their own vision, has their own story, with Pearl being like Psycho, X being like Friday the 13th, and Maxine being, I don't really know how you'd call it. It's kind of its own flavor, kind of its own thing, but it's also a fun movie. But in my opinion, X is the best one in this franchise, and I fell in love with it right away. At 7, coming right back to Ash and coming right back to Sam Raimi, we have Evil Dead 2. This is when Ash is in top form, Sam Raimi's in top form, the movie is awesome, the comedy is awesome, the scares are great, everything in this movie is at its peak. You may have more comedy in Army of the Dead, and you may have more scares and horror in the original Evil Dead, but Evil Dead 2 is a perfect balance and mixture of everything, in my opinion. At number 6, we have Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. And I feel like me putting this one this high was more in like a nod to the Friday the 13th franchise as a whole, because it is my favorite slasher franchise. Of the big 3 of the 80s, it is my personal favorite to go back to and watch. I love all these movies, but Part 6 is by far my favorite, with the zombie Jason coming back to life. As you see, I love zombies, and I think this movie is top tier Friday the 13th, and top tier horror movies at that. Coming into my top 5, and I'm looking at it right now, and we have a lot of my favorites. We have my favorite horror franchise and my favorite horror subgenre just ruling my top 5. So coming at number 5, we have Scream 2. I love the Scream franchise. It is my favorite horror franchise. It might be my favorite franchise of all time. I love the movies, I love the TV show, I love everything about it. I dressed up as Ghostface one year for Halloween in like middle school. I watched the TV show the day it premiered, every single episode when I was in high school. This was my favorite franchise and still is to the date. And for the longest time, Scream 2 was actually my favorite Scream movie, but my opinion just switched on that this year. And you know that because coming in at number 4, we have the original Scream. This, in my opinion, is a perfect movie. It has a perfect blend of comedy and horror. It has a perfect cast. It came out at just the right time with Wes Craven saving the horror genre when he made this. Horror was like dying. People were over it. They thought it was, there was no new fresh ideas. It was washed up. And he comes in and saves it with a slasher movie, which was the most common drawn out horror movie of the time. At number 3, and like I said with Scream, I think this about these next 3. These are all 4 perfect movies. At number 3, we have Night of the Living Dead, the original zombie movie by George Romero, the master of horror himself. What a great film. The fact that it's in black and white, and I'm in my 20s, and I can still be amazed by it and just shocked by it, and everything about it can, stick with me and leave such a big impact on me, speaks to how great this movie is. It truly isn't a product of its time, coming out in the 60s, it's black and white, doesn't live up to it. This movie lives on forever, and it always will live on forever because of how great and how special it is. It is the first zombie movie, and it is the best zombie movie. At number 2, we have Silence of the Lambs. Now, I know a lot of you don't think this is a horror movie, but I made my list based off of what Letterboxd has as the genre and what I think is the genre. Those are my 2 factors when picking what list to put each movie in. And this is, without a doubt, in my mind, a horror movie. Hannibal Lecter is one of the horror greats, and I just think that this is a perfect film as well. The casting of Hannibal and as Clarice is both amazing, and they both, I'm pretty sure, won awards for their roles in these films. Just an outstanding movie, very quotable, which is weird for a horror movie, but it is. And it has the perfect balance of everything in it. If I had to recommend any horror movie to watch from this list, if you haven't seen any of these, I would recommend Silence of the Lambs. And at number 1, it may not be better than Silence of the Lambs, and it may not even be a top 10 movie on this list, but I have so much nostalgia for it. I love it so much. It is my favorite. It is a horror comedy, and we have Zombieland. I love Bill Murray. I love Woody Harrelson. I love zombies, and this is the perfect movie for me. I can quote every line from this movie. It is my comfort movie. I put it on whenever I don't know what to watch. I put it on at night to fall asleep to. This movie means the world to me, and it will forever and always be my number 1 favorite horror movie of all time. Thank you all so much for watching my video. Like I said, this was my personal list. For my 25th birthday, this is what these movies mean to me and how I would rank them. But I would love to see all of your lists in the comments below because I know they'd be very different from mine. And if you comment, I will make sure to comment back to you and have a conversation with you. I love talking about movies. This is why I do this, and I love talking to you guys. So please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and comment below. If you want, you can turn on post notifications because we do have these next 4 lists coming. Like I said, in February we are doing comedies. In March we're doing action sci-fi. In April we are doing drama. And finally, to wrap it all up, in my birth month, my 25th birthday of May, we are doing my top 25 favorite movies of all time. I've been looking forward to the series for a while now, and I'm so excited to finally bring it to you guys. So thank you all so much, and have a great day.